Hello, gorgeous souls. It's wonderful to be here with you today, and I wanted to speak into anxiety and overwhelm. Often these two things go hand in hand when we're experiencing burnout or any form of exhaustion, when we're feeling extra pushed or we've got too much on our plate. And I really specifically wanted to speak into this because yesterday I was experiencing a lot of anxiety for myself, and even though I'm aware of what's going on for myself and what's actually at the root cause of that, I wanted to speak into this because you may not be aware of this as well. In our monthly cycle, it is so important to track our cycle because you may start to notice that there is a pattern when you're at particular stages in your cycle. And I'll explain if you are in menopause or experiencing perimenopause, what could also be going on for you at the moment as well. And good morning, great to have you on here. Please say hello, pop your name below, or say, feel free to tune in and say hi. So in terms of like tracking our monthly cycle, so important to do this, simply because at the end of our cycle and at various points in our cycle, our hormones are all fluctuating, right? Like that's what gives us our monthly cycle. So during typically days 7 to day 21, we tend to be in a lot more higher energy. Hey Jennifer, great to have you on, honey. We tend to be in a lot more higher energy. That is when all of our hormones tend to be a lot higher, particularly around day 14, day 15. That's when we're ovulating typically. It can be slightly different for women, obviously just depending on how long your cycle actually goes for, but for a typical 28-day cycle, we're generally at our peak around day 14, day 15. That's when we're feeling confident, we're feeling strong. It is also when you will have the highest level of focus to be able to get things done and have the confidence and the energy to be able to do those things. Now, what happens around day 17 is our hormones start to drop. Our estrogen and testosterone start to drop away. And this is when we can start to experience perhaps tears or rage can come up as well. So it's really important to understand these different things. For me, I was on day 2 yesterday, and when we're trying to push or when we're overloading ourselves at those latter stages, so generally day 25 right through to perhaps day 6 or day 7, that's when our energy starts to really pick up again. Between those stages, day 25 and day 6 or 7, hey Kayla, great to have you on here too, honey. That is when our energy is at our lowest. It is, we have less testosterone, we have less estrogen, progesterone is up and down like a yo-yo. And so all of those things are fluctuating, and because we're lower in hormones, we don't actually have a lot of physical energy compared to what we do have at different stages in our cycle. But we've actually been trained to kind of have a man's cycle, and a man's cycle is actually 24 hours. Their testosterone starts to build from 1 a.m. in the morning. It generally peaks around 8 a.m., which is typically when obviously most work days start, and then actually starts to decrease from 5 p.m. in the afternoon, which is when we normally stop work, obviously, and when a man would then start to relax into family time, all of those things, and it continues to decrease until 1 a.m. in the morning, where it starts to increase again. So all of those factors, we've kind of been trained or indoctrinated by society that is the standard, that we should actually be able to be like that. And I think we can really beat ourselves up as women by feeling like, oh my goodness, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, I should just be able to get things done. Why can't I focus today? I'm so scattered. I'm procrastinating. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling all of these different things, and I don't want to do the work. And so it's really, really normal. So what I do is take a lot out of my schedule around those times, knowing full well that I'm actually not going to have as much energy typically as what I would have in the obviously day 7 to day 21. So it's really, really important to know these things, because unless you actually are aware of this, you could be experiencing anxiety and then going, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, why am I feeling like this? All of these things. So yes, it definitely can be hormonal, and it also can be definitely from the thoughts that we think. But it's also important to remember that when we have lower testosterone, so during that time, day 25 through to about day 6, our testosterone drops from, day 16, day 17 as well. So all of that's getting depleted. And so there is more self-doubt, there is more insecurity, there is more anxiety. All of those things tend to play out. We tend to compare ourselves so much, particularly on social media. If you actually tracked your cycle and tracked how you're actually feeling on each of those days, you would notice lower energy and lower confidence, lower ability to be able to focus or get things done. Now, overwhelm and anxiety also are coupled with the fact fact that overwhelm, particularly, we've put too much on our plate, or we feel that we have too much to do compared to the ratio of energy, physical energy, that we have to do those particular things. Now, if you're anything like me and, come from that really, A-type personality, the high achiever, wanting to get things done, have big self, motivation and goals and everything else, but you may find that when you're in burnout that all of that's gone out the window. Well, this is exactly why. And often we can overload ourselves, and that was exactly what I was doing, was overloading myself with my diary, expecting myself to do 18 or 20 hours worth of work, like not actually adding it up, not being realistic, and putting all of these things on my to-do list, then beating myself up every single day, feeling like a failure because I wasn't actually getting through that list. God knows why, because it was completely unrealistic. But watch where you're actually doing that with yourself as well. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, try to break it down to your top 1, 2, and 3 things. You have to learn to prioritize, particularly if you are overwhelmed and particularly if you are moving through burnout, because if you don't, you'll continue burning out through beating yourself up. You could be resting on the couch, literally laying down and attempting to rest, but if you're feeling like a failure, if you're beating yourself up, if you're calling yourself lazy, if you're feeling guilty for actually laying down and resting, you are continually burning out your adrenal system because you're in a state of fear. And this is a really, really important thing to understand, because mentally and emotionally, our survival mind becomes very, very active when we are lower in energy, because it becomes hypervigilant. It's trying to help us to understand, what's going to hurt us, what's going to harm us, what's going to go wrong. And so it is hyper focused on all of those negative things, which is why often when you are in burnout, working with somebody to really help you understand that is one of the most critical factors, because otherwise we continue in this like downward spiral, which just makes us feel even worse about ourselves and really, really low self-esteem. But just also, like I mentioned at the start, really tracking your cycle, knowing where you're at in your cycle. If you are feeling a bit flatter, like I was yesterday, I was day 2 of my cycle, I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, and it was just like, it's okay, it's all just hormonal, I'm just going to be calm, I'm going to really take care of my nervous system today, I'm going to be really, put on my pajama pants because they're nice and fluffy, I'm very sensory, put them on at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, even though I'm still working, because I'm working from home, obviously, not in the office, but doing those things, whatever you can that soothes and calms your nervous system, is really going to support your physical body through those lower periods of energy as well. And like I mentioned before, start to track your cycle so that you can actually take more off your plate, not expect so much of yourself during those particular times. Sometimes, and I have a launch coming up in a week, so Tuesday week, so I was feeling like a lot of pressure around, needing to get these things done. So sometimes life will happen and, we can't always do that, but being mindful where you can will really, really support yourself and support yourself to heal burnout as well. Now, all of those things that I mentioned are also very active in perimenopause and menopause. The lower in hormones we become, which is obviously what's happening with menopause, our estrogen is dropping away, our testosterone is dropping away. All of those things can really impact. Who is this resonating for? Is this landing for, or maybe some aha moments for some of you as well? So please comment below, if that's really helpful for you to know. But moving through perimenopause and menopause, it's so important to remember these things, particularly with your hormones, so that you're not beating yourself up as much. You've got a clear understanding of what's going on physiologically and biologically within your system, so that you're not beating yourself up as much mentally and emotionally. All of those things will support your health and well-being and your mental health and well-being more than anything. So sending you all lots of love. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you are really experiencing a lot of burnout, you're exhausted, you've been in that state for quite a while, often there can be unhealed traumas and other unresolved things that are actually going on, and getting the right support nutritionally, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to get you reconnected back with you again. I find so many women feel lost simply because they've given themselves so much to everyone else and put everybody else's needs ahead of their own, and really getting the support that they need at this particular time is so, so important. So if that is you, please reach out, send me a DM, let's book in a time to see if and how I might be able to help you, and to really understand what is the root cause, what's going on for you, because often there's a root cause that's actually perpetuating the burnout, And until you actually heal that, we just continue kind of in that same downward spiral, which is not comfortable in any way, shape or form. Been through burnout. I know how tough it is going through it. So lots of love. Have a great day, guys. Bye for now.